Yes, good morning. Switch on your cameras and register your presence. Please come. Okay. So we are discussing the topic of crowding. And we have so far seen that the perception of high density is psychological in nature. So the same situation of high density can be distressful and it can also be pleasant. It depends upon the context and the situation. So when you are in theater, cinema, auditorium, stadium, high density will be pleasant experience. But in train, bus, restaurants or public place, high density will be distressful, right? So there are several studies done over crowding, and the studies begins with animal behavior. So first of all, we will look at studies on animal behavior, and then we will go to human behavior because human behavior is a bit more complex. Now, एनिमल बिहेवियर में सिर्फ 2 स्टडी है, आपको ज्यादा प्रेशर लेने की जरूरत नहीं है, लोड लेने की जरूरत नहीं, और नाम भी याद रह जाएगा आपको. One of the study came from Du Bois. Please come. Du Bois. Du Bois made a naturalistic observation. Du Bois made a naturalistic observation over short-tailed Arctic rats known as lemmings. Naturalistic observation is a non-obtrusive observation, right? The observed does not know that he or she is being observed. Like placing a hidden camera or micro camera in the ecosystem. So short-tailed Norwegian Arctic rats were studied. They are known as lemmings, and it was found that during winters, when there was shortage of food supply, these rats jumped into the sea and committed suicide. So during winters in Arctic Circle, there is shortage of food supply. So population is more and food supply is less. So to balance the population and food supply, some of the rats would jump into the sea and commit suicide. Okay. So population is more, food is less, crowded situation, they commit suicide. Now, not only short-tailed rats like flemings do this, even Eskimos and humans also do this. So during the winters, when there is shortage of food supply, okay? During winters, when there is shortage of food supply, the Eskimo communities who live in snow houses called igloos, the senior citizens in Eskimo community come out naked in the snow and they die of cold. They take barf ki samadhi. Now this has become a natural instinct. This has become a natural instinct. So to balance the food supply and the population, this kind of traits have been induced. Okay? Now see why I said that this case study will not be difficult to remember, because Du Bois से याद रखो, चूहे समुद्र में कूद के डूब जाते हैं. Du Bois. ठीक है? Okay. And now comes a very interesting study conducted by John Calhoun. Calhoun का study अलग से पूछ सकता है. A separate question has been asked over John Calhoun's study. So John Calhoun put 50 rats, he kept 50 rats in a cage that was designed for 50 rats. So he took 50 rats, both male, female, and placed them in a cage, inside a cage, which was designed. The size of the cage was such that it was designed to house 50 cats. Okay. He supplied them with food and water and allowed them to multiply naturally. He supplied them with food and water and allowed them to multiply naturally. Soon, the population of the rats rose to 80. 50 rats increased to 80 rats as a consequence of natural growth rate. So no rats were no rats were imported from outside. They multiplied due to reproduction, which is called natural growth rate. So population of rats increased from 50 to 80. Leading to crowding of the cage. Leading to crowding of the cage. So naturally crowding was created. Now you may say, why did not he directly put 80 rats in a small cage? Well, in that case, the rats would adjust accordingly from the very beginning. But when 50 rats are living comfortably in a cage which is designed for 50, and natural growth rate increases their population to 80, they will feel the difference. Okay? The changes in behavior of the rats following the crowding, the changes in the behavior of the rats following crowding are as follows. Were as follows. So what changes took place in the behavior of the rats? Let us see. So this is a cage. That is appropriate for 50 rats, and the population of the rat has become 80. So what happened subsequently? Two champion rats pulled along with themselves 8 to 10 female rats. Two champion rats pulled along with themselves 8 to 10 female rats and occupied the corner space. And prospered. Two champion rats were the strongest rats, the biggest ones. They pulled along with themselves 8 to 10 female rats, and they occupied the corner space, corner plots, and they prospered. Okay. The remaining rats were compelled to occupy the central area. Remaining rats were forced to occupy the central area. Okay. Now the rats who occupied the central area, what were the behavioral changes in them? Some of the central rats, some of them became disinterested in socializing. Some of them became disinterested in socializing and wandered here and there. तो कुछ रैट्स जोगी बन गए, साधु बन गए, उनको मोह माया से बिल्कुल मुक्त हो गए और वो इधर उधर भटकने लगे. The other rats also ignored their presence. The other rats also ignored their presence. The other rats also ignored their presence. Okay? Change number 2. The pregnant rats became careless and gave birth to babies on the floor without building nest. The pregnant rats became careless and gave birth to their babies on the floor without making nest. As a consequence, infant mortality rate increased. As a consequence, infant mortality rate increased and pregnancy rate decreased due to stress. And pregnancy rate declined due to stress. Okay? Another change that took place, ये तो और भी जबरदस्त change है. Some of the rats were labeled as probers. Some of the rats were labeled as probers as they consistently looked for female rats who could be provoked for sexual activity. As they continuously hunted for female rats who could be provoked for sexual activity, probers. Okay? There was increment in aggression in the middle rats, central rats. There was increase in aggression among central rats as they frequently attacked each other. There was increase in aggression amongst the central rats as they frequently attacked each other. And change number 7, some of the central rats became homosexuals. Some of the central rats became homosexuals. ठीक है, ये ऑब्जर्वेशन है. अब मैं देखना चाहता हूं कि आपका कॉमन सेंस और साइकोलॉजी आपको क्या एनालॉजी ड्रॉ कराता है. You have written these changes. Now just imagine an urban city. The urban city begins as a center of economic activity, which is known as CBD. CBD stands for Central Business District. So it is the hub of all economic activity. Say Connaught Place is CBD. You find headquarters of all the office, all the business houses located in CBD. Okay? Now CBD is totally invested in commercial activity and the land is very expensive as well as polluted. Where? In CBD. Okay? People who are rich and powerful, do not prefer to live in the center of the city which is congested and polluted. They prefer to stay in the peripheral areas, which are known as satellite towns. So if this is the core of the city, the periphery is the NCR region, Noida, Gurgaon, Faridabad. These are the places which provide you with green and pure environment, clean environment. So rich and powerful people settle down in the peripheral areas. So rich and powerful peripheral area में बस गए. अब बचा क्या? ये बैंक, Yamuna Bank. Now this Yamuna Bank is the area which is lived by the poorest of the poor who can't afford a high standard living. Okay? They are compelled to form slums in the middle area between CBD and periphery. They are the ones who form Lakshmi Nagar, Yamuna Bank, slums. ठीक है, जितने बांग्लादेशी, रोहिंग्या, मुस्लिम सब आके वहीं बसते हैं. ये पूरा कंजेस्टेड एरिया जो है, ठीक है, ये क्या है? स्लम एरिया है. आप ऐसे समझ लो. Now I have given you a model of a city. You can draw an analogy with Calhoun's cage. And now correlate, is there any analogy between rat's behavior and the human behavior? Can you see some similarity between rat behavior and human behavior? वो क्या क्या है जरा आप मुझे देख के बताइए. मैं आपको 1 मिनट का समय देता हूं. How this model can help explain the life of city dwellers. ठीक है. Yes, who would like to? Yes, the rich people occupy the majority of the resources. They are the like champion rats. Yeah, Neha. What about the middle rats?
I think with all of the points mostly. So, like the person whoever was speaking said that the rich occupy most of the resources and very limited is left for the people who are living in these slum areas. So they
Yes,
have to survive on that. So that was the first point, like the champion right to move to a corner. And then if we talk about the second point, that is also the same. Remaining rats have to live in that, remaining people have to live in the limited resources. Third point, if we see they become disinterested in socializing. So there are certain humans who also become disinterested in socializing because there's lack of resources and all. So we see nomadism and all of that because there's no
yes.
resources. And
If you go
fourth,
to, hmm,
the
continue.
fourth point, when we talk about the pregnancy and care about pregnancy, if we see the people of slum areas, they're not so careful about pregnancy. So there is very high infant mortality rate in the slum areas because there's not enough care for pregnant women and children. So there is higher death rate, but pregnancy rate I think would be higher there instead of lower because they engage more in pregnancy activities, thinking that maybe a bigger family would yield more income and all of that.
Yes. So human beings respond differently. You know, in slum areas, because of congested condition, people show high aggression. They fight even for a tap of water. A bucket of water becomes an issue of fighting and quarreling. So there is greater degree of quarrelsomeness. If you see the crime rates, they're also very high in the slum areas. Okay. You also find probers and voyeurs in the slum areas. You know, they keep looking for those women, so they will move, you know, to the peripheral areas. You know, there's brutal crime against women that is seen in the peripheral areas, especially in a city like Delhi. You might have noticed it is because of this frustration. You will also find the sadhu babas and hermits. They are coming from the slum areas. They get totally discharged and disoriented. Okay. So you find greater incidences of homosexualities from this area reported. So you will find there is a reasonable degree of significance, similarity between the animal behavior and the human behavior when crowded condition exist in a place. Okay. However, we cannot duplicate the study of clown to human communities as such. Like Neha said, that there is not decrease in pregnancy rate because child mortality and infant mortality is very high in slum area. They generally produce more number of children so that some survive. Okay. Okay. Now these were animal studies. Let's come to human study. So effect of crowding on human behavior. A study conducted by Friedman. Study conducted by Friedman. Friedman took a group of 5 to 9 male and female college students, male and female college students. So it was a mixed group, and placed them in rooms of 3 different sizes, and placed them in rooms of 3 different sizes, 80 feet square, 30 feet square, 80 feet square, and 160 feet square, creating 3 different densities, high, medium, and low. He placed 5 to 9 college students who were both girls and boys in 3 rooms of different sizes, 30 feet square, 80 feet square, and 160 feet square, and created 3 different densities. So in one condition, 9 members were kept in 30 feet square room, high density. And in another condition, 5 members were kept in 160 feet square room, low density, and बीच वाला बीच का. ठीक है. तो 3 different तरह के density create किया गया जानबूझ के. These groups were given a task to perform. So tell me, what would be the performance of these three groups? Groups working in high density and group working in medium and low density. Should there be a difference in performance? Surprisingly, there was no difference in performance. So a question mark for Kalhoun study. Human beings are not at par with animals. So there was no difference in performance between high density, medium density, and low density. And hence Friedman concluded that human beings are motivated enough, and therefore Friedman concluded that human beings are motivated enough to overcome the ill effects of high density. Human beings are motivated enough to overcome the ill effects of high density. ठीक है? Paulus and Seta. Paulus and Seta found that high density adversely affects performance. Paulus and Seta objected. They said high density adversely affect performance over complex task. So for simple task, human being can overcome the high density with their motivation. But when the task is complex, performance will get adversely affected. So high density adversely affect task performance when the task is complex, but not when the task is simple. Okay? When the task is complex, high density adversely affect the task performance. और ये सही भी है. जब मैं अपने घर में काम करता हूं, अगर कोई आसपास में शोर शराबा करे, भीड़ भाड़ रहे, तो मेरा ध्यान भटकता है. ठीक है, जरूर ध्यान भटकता है. मैं आपको बताता हूं, मैं टीवी चला के सोता हूं, मेरा नींद बिल्कुल डिस्ट्रैक्ट नहीं होता है. लेकिन जब मैं काम करता हूं तो मुझे आसपास साइलेंस चाहिए. ठीक है. So that is why libraries, etc., where people engage in deep intellectual complex tasks, pin drop silence is preferred. ठीक है. Ziont found very interesting, and Decan will realize it. What is this finding? Ziont found that high density increases the dominant response. High density increases the frequency of dominant response. ठीक है. While the non-dominant responses get inhibited in high density conditions. While non-dominant response get inhibited in high density conditions. Now, what is dominant response? Dominant response is the most conspicuous response in every individual, the most automatic response in every individual, the most practiced and habitual response in your total responses is called dominant response. जैसे बकरी जैसा मिमियाना शाहरुख खान का डोमिनेंट रिस्पॉन्स. जब वो बहुत उत्तेजित हो जाता है तो उसका मिमियाना बढ़ जाता है, ज्यादा करने लगता है, ठीक है, क्योंकि वो उसका सबसे डोमिनेंट नेचुरल रिस्पॉन्स है, वो निकल के आएगा। तो जैसे आप आर्टिस्ट हैं, ठीक है, आप जब अकेले में प्रैक्टिस करते हैं, रियाज करते हैं, तो बहुत सारी मुर्कियां ऐसे लेते हैं, यू टेक मेनी मूव्स, टर्न्स which are very artistic in nature and that you do in solitary. But when you are performing amongst audience, you may suppress those artistic responses which are non-dominant, and what will come out of you will be the natural instinct, the most habitual behavior, move, step, singing, whatever it is, that will come frequently. ठीक है, जब मैं धारा प्रवाह में बोलता हूं, जब मैं कुछ देख के नहीं बोलता हूं, कोई केस स्टडी पढ़ नहीं रहा हूं, तो मेरे मुंह से वो शब्द बार बार निकलते हैं जो कि मेरा सबसे वेल प्रैक्टिस शब्द है, ठीक है। सो हाई डेंसिटी और क्राउडेड कंडीशन increases and facilitates the dominant response while suppresses or inhibits the non-dominant responses, and that is why practice makes a man perfect. If you practice non-dominant response again and again, they will become dominant eventually, and they will show up in your performance later on. Okay? So this was Zion's. Yeah. This was also done. Friedman also changed the subject from college students. They just hired some women who were referred to them from the employment agencies. They thought that they are doing their job. They have come here to work. So they did not understood that they are participating in an experiment. They thought that it is our natural working condition. Even then, there was no difference in performance. Okay. Okay. I did not make you write that because that will be too lengthy for a case study. Okay. Carling found that children living in crowded hostels scored poor grades in their exams. Children living in crowded hostels scored poor grades in their exams. अब सारे केस स्टडी आपको याद नहीं रहेंगे, जितने याद रहेंगे एक दो कोट कर देना है, ठीक है। बॉम एट ऑल फाउंड student living in crowded dormitories felt lack of control. Students living in crowded dormitories felt lack of control and reduced social interaction amongst themselves. And the situation became chaos as the exam came closer. And the situation became chaos as the exams came closer. Mishra and Tiwari. Mishra is Girishwar Mishra, the former head of the Department of Psychology, Delhi University. Right? Mishra and Tiwari found that number of siblings at home was negatively correlated with performance on cognitive task. Number of siblings at home was negatively correlated with performance on cognitive task, and this was relatively higher in urban areas as compared to rural. And this was relatively higher in urban areas as compared to rural. Why relatively higher in urban areas? Because in urban areas, the only shelter that you have, it is your home. You can't go and sit beneath a tree and study. You can do that in the rural areas. वो पेड़ के नीचे या पेड़ के डाल पे झूलता हुआ भी पड़ा लेगा, ठीक है, वो गांव में संभव है, शहर में संभव नहीं है। यहाँ तो पेड़ पे चढ़ोगे तो देखा जाएगा कि बंदर पहले बैठा हुआ, ठीक है। तो कितने लोग पेड़ के डाली पे झूले हैं? Okay, you know how did I learn to swim? Although I am a chora Ganga kinare wala, but I learned to swim in my village. So in my village I have a pond. I have several ponds. Now in one of the pond there is a palm tree that is inclining over the pond. ऐसा, you know, ऐसा incline कर रहा है pond के ऊपर में. Palm tree. मैं इस palm tree के ऊपर जाता था और यहाँ से dive मारता था. And you know, this palm tree would bend and it would swing, and then it will give you a high jump, and then you jump in the water. It was such a fun. मुझे याद आता है. How many of you don't know how to swim? Pond, pool कुछ है आसपास? तुम खुद ही सीख सकते हो, मैं बता दूंगा आपको तरीका. टायर है, ट्यूब नहीं है, कोई बात नहीं. घड़ा है, एल्युमिनियम का घड़ा है घर में जिसका मुंह छोटा हो. बड़ा वाला एल्युमिनियम का घड़ा खरीदो जिसका मुंह छोटा है, उस घड़े को उल्टा करो और उसके ऊपर ऐसे ऐसे अपना हाथ रख दो और पैर पीछे छोड़ दो. वो डूबेगा नहीं घड़ा. बस घड़ा छोड़ना मत, छोड़ोगे तो तुम डूब जाओगे सामने से, ठीक है, जब तक अपना फ्लोटिंग मोड में नहीं आओ, ठीक है. मैंने ऐसे सीखा था, ठीक है. Another case study came from Bohm again. Bohm investigated the role of expectation from crowding. Bohm investigated the role of expectation from crowding. According to him, the expectation which people carry from crowded situation, according to him, the expectation people carry from crowded situation affects the feeling of crowding. Bohm told the subject that a crowd is going to arrive in the hall. Bohm told the subject that a crowd was going to arrive in the hall, and the subjects quickly occupied the corner seats in advance. And the subjects quickly occupied the corner seats in advance. They looked at each other less frequently. So when subjects expected a crowd to enter the hall, they already occupied the preferred seats and locations, and they did not look at each other frequently. They were trying to maintain their space. Okay? However, when the subjects were told that the crowd will be led by a group leader, who will maintain the norms, the subjects got relaxed. ठीक है, जैसे मान लो आप यहां से शताब्दी में जयपुर जा रहे हो, तो जब आप यहां से ट्रेन पे बैठोगे तो आप देखोगे पूरा का पूरा कोच ऑलमोस्ट खाली है, आप राजा की तरह बैठे हो। लेकिन आपको पता है कि अलवर में बहुत सारे पैसेंजर्स अंदर आने वाले हैं, लेकिन आपको कोई टेंशन नहीं होगा, बिकॉज अलवर इज लोकेटेड इन राजस्थान एंड राजस्थानी पीपल आर वेरी सिंपल, इनोसेंट, डिसेंट। तो आपको पता है कि आपके जूते के ऊपर कोई पैर नहीं रखेगा। They will be guided by certain norms. They are disciplined people, well cultured people. They won't, without asking your permission, they will not even put their bags, to touch your luggage. ठीक है, तो कितना भी लोग चला है अंदर कोच के अंदर, you will not feel any tension. But suppose you are traveling in Patna, Rajdhani. The moment train enters Bihar, and you are expecting a crowd to enter, you can never know कि वो crowd क्या करेगा आपके साथ। ठीक है, तो मैं आपको बताता हूं एक किस्सा। मेरा ही स्टेट है, मैं क्या बोलूं। एक बार मैं राजधानी में जा रहा था, मेरा अपर बर्थ था, ठीक है, AC 2 टायर था, नीचे एक भाई साहब बैठे हुए थे, वो दिल्ली से चढ़े थे और बहुत अंग्रेजी बोल रहे थे, और वो अपने सीट पे मक्खी ना बैठने दे। अब देखो दिन के टाइम में तो बैठेगा आदमी, भाई अपर बर्थ वाला चढ़ते ही तो ऊपर नहीं बैठ जाएगा तो बैठेगा नीचे। ये मेरा सीट है भाई साहब, आप अपने सीट पे जाओ। मैंने कहा ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम, मैं चला गया अपने सीट पे। फेलो पैसेंजर है, क्या झगड़ा करना है, ठीक है। और वो अपने सीट पे किसी को ना बैठने दे, ठीक है। जो मान लो किसी स्टेशन में कोई पैसेंजर चढ़ा, सामान नीचे रख रहा है, ऊपर रख रहा है, कोई थोड़ा सा अगर बैठ भी जाए ना तो वो तुरंत उसको उठा दे। वो एकदम दिन हो रात हो वो अपना सीट पकड़े हुए। मैं पटना स्टेशन जब आया तो वो उतरा प्लेटफॉर्म में पानी वानी कुछ खरीदने, इतने में एक मोटा सा बिहारी आके उसके सीट में आलती पालती ले मार के बैठ गया, ठीक है। और मैं देख रहा हूं कि अब होने क्या वाला, देखो। वो आया, व्हाट इज दिस, कांट यू सी माय हैंकरचीफ, कैन यू सी दिस हैंकी। तो मोटा चुपचाप सुन रहा है, फिर बोला क्या रुमाल है ना, क्या है। बोला तो रुमाल है, दिखता नहीं है। तो रुमाल है तो इसमें क्या दिखता तो है। बोला तो ये सीट मेरा है। बोला कैसे। बोले ये रुमाल मेरा है तो सीट मेरा है। तो बिहारी मेरे तरफ देखा, इधर उधर देखा, बोला सुन लीजिए इनको, ए भाई साहब ये रुमाल आप जाके ताजमहल के ऊपर गिरा दीजिए, ताजमहल आपका हो गया। मैं तो ऊपर लोटपोट हो रहा हूं उसका बात सुन के। ठीक है, so when you expect that the crowd that is going to arrive is going to be normless, then you feel anxiety and distress. Baum et al. Took two group of subjects randomly. Baum et al. Assigned the subject to two groups randomly and gave them the task of shopping in a marketplace. And gave them a task of shopping in the marketplace. ट्रेन में बड़ा मजेदार किस्सा होता है ये। एक बार मैं जा रहा था ट्रेन में, तो फिर मेरा अपर बर्थ, नीचे दो बिजनेसमैन बैठे हुए थे, सेठ जी, ठीक है। और शुरू से दोनों ना करोड़ों की बातें कर रहे थे, मतलब लाखों में उनका कोई बात ही नहीं हो रहा था। उधर मैंने 5 करोड़ लगा दिए, वो कह रहा है मैंने उधर 15 करोड़ लगा दिए, उधर से मुझे इतना करोड़ आ गया। मतलब करोड़ करोड़ सुन सुन के ना मुझे लग रहा था कि मैं तो भिखारी हूँ, ठीक है। मुझे लगा बाप रे कैसे लोग होंगे, हाउ सक्सेसफुल पीपल आर देयर ना। उसके बाद बोला ऐसा करते हैं, आप अपना नंबर मुझे दे दीजिए, मैं आपको अपना नंबर दे देता हूँ। बोला ठीक है, आप मुझे कॉल कीजिए। तो वो कॉल कर रहा है तो उसका लग नहीं रहा है। फिर से कीजिए, कर नहीं लगा, ये भी किया उसको, उसका नहीं लगा, नहीं नहीं नेटवर्क नहीं है। तो बोला कमाल है, हम लोग इतना पास पास बैठे हैं फिर भी नेटवर्क नहीं है। मैं समझ गया ये कौन सा करोड़ है। पास पास बैठे फिर भी नेटवर्क नहीं। Okay. Now Baum et al. Assigned the subjects to two groups randomly. Group one was told to expect high density in the marketplace. Group 1 was told to expect high density in the marketplace in advance, while Group 2 was not forewarned about the high density. While Group 2 was not forewarned about the high density. It was found that Group 1, who were mentally expecting a crowd, did more intelligent shopping as compared to Group 2, who were taken by surprise. As compared to Group 2, who were taken by surprise. So basically, what you expect from the crowd affects your performance. There are two things. When you expect that the crowd will be following a norm, some rules, you don't feel ill effect. Or when you are already expecting a crowd, you are mentally prepared to face it. But if the crowd is unexpected and normless, then it causes distress. ठीक है, जैसे कि मैंने कहा, अगर आपके घर में मेहमान आ रहे, वो मेहमान अपनी जगह पे बैठे, जहां आपने बैठाया वहीं बैठे, इधर उधर ना घूमे, आपके बेडरूम में ना घुस जाए, ठीक है, आपके घर में इधर उधर झांक, देखिए जरा आपका घर कैसा, ऐसा ऐसा नहीं करे, ठीक है, और अगर उसके बच्चे आपके चीजें ना तोड़े तो आपको कोई दिक्कत नहीं कितने भी मेहमान आ जाए। लेकिन कोई ऐसा मेहमान आ गया जिसका कोई रूल नहीं है, वो कहीं भी घुस जा रहा है, देन देयर इज अ प्रॉब्लम, है कि नहीं? Number 8. Like my daughter's friend would come to my home, and बच्चे तो बच्चे हैं, धमा चौकड़ी पूरा करते हैं. So these kids would try to barge into my bedroom, but my daughter never allows any of her friends to enter my bedroom. Even she personally would not enter my bedroom as long as her friends are there. ठीक है, वो इस बात का खास ख्याल रखती है. अच्छा, मैंने उसको कभी बोला नहीं है, अपना इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस, ठीक है. Now, Cox et al. studied the behavior of prisoners. Cox et al. Studied the behavior of prisoners when the population of the prison increased. Cox et al. Studied the behavior of the prisoners when the population of the prison increased and found that incidences of law breaking increased by 6 times. Incidences of law breaking increased by 6 times, and suicide rates increased by 3 times. Prison is a place where maximum number of suicides occur. You should know that, because of distress. Okay. So people who are into long-term imprisonment, when they get to know that the family members outside have either died or perished away or have been lost in contact, they do not feel any meaning for leaving, even if they are freed after the punishment completes. 14 साल के बाद, 20 साल के बाद अगर आप उसको छोड़ भी दे रहे हैं, उसके पास कोई नहीं है, उसका कोई परिवार ही नहीं है, तो वो क्या करते हैं, छूटना नहीं चाहते, वो प्रिजन के अंदर ही सुसाइड कर लेता है, ठीक है। दैट इज फाउंड अक्रॉस द वर्ल्ड। सो सुसाइड रेट्स आर वेरी हाई इन प्रिजन्स, ठीक है। हमारे हिंदुस्तान में तो शॉर्ट टर्म होता है 14 साल मैक्सिमम, बट इफ यू गो टू यूरोप, if you go to America, the term which the judge confers on the criminal can also be 150 years, 200 years, ठीक है। 200 years मतलब यार तुम जिंदा रह नहीं सकते इतना दिन, तुम जितना दिन जियोगे यही मरोगे। Are you getting it? तो वो करते क्या है ना, कंपाउंड कर देते, जितना चार्ज है हर चार्ज पे 5 साल 10 साल जो भी प्रेस्क्राइब्ड है वो लगा देते। तो जोड़ जाड़ के अगर निकालोगे तो वो, अगर मान लो किसी को 70 साल का प्रिजन हो गया तो ऑब्वियसली वो जिंदा नहीं निकलेगा वहां से। Are you getting it? Now, Moser et al. Moser et al. Moser et al. Found that crowding increases aggression in population. He found crowding increases aggression in population. How did he found that? Huh? No. He found aggression, crime name. He found that the public telephone booths which were located in crowded markets are not working. So the public telephone booths which were not working and located in crowded marketplaces, people banged the phone heavily with anger. तो आपने सिक्का डाला और फोन खराब है तो आपको गुस्सा आएगा, you will get angry, ठीक है, you will put the phone. Now when the public telephone was located in crowded place, people aggressively banged down the phone that was not working, while people gently put the phone down when the public booth was located in non-crowded market. Okay? So public booths located in crowded marketplace which were not working, people banged them heavily. But when the same booths were located in non-crowded places, people placed the phone gently. Then how do people react? Here the reaction is important. It is not working fine, but how do you put down the phone? Okay. Moser also found that crowding also leads to decline in helping behavior. Crowding also leads to decline in helping behavior. लोग मदद करना भी कम कर देते हैं crowded places में. So how did he came to know this? There are two studies. He deliberately dropped the bundle of books inside the library. So he was carrying a bundle of books and he deliberately dropped the bundle of books inside the library. When the library was located in open places, when the library was located in open place, many people came forward to help. Many people came forward to help. But when the library was located in crowded place, very few people came forward for help. And another study was conducted in Paris. The shops, when the shops were located in crowded marketplace, the shoppers did not hold the door of the shop. The shoppers did not hold the door of the shop for the next customer. For the next customer behind. Okay? However, when the shops were located in open marketplace, the shoppers held the door for the next customer. और ये पेरिस की बात कर रहा हूँ, इंडिया में तो क्राउडेड हो नॉन क्राउडेड हो, कोई दरवाजा पकड़ के खड़ा नहीं रहता पीछे वाले, ठीक है, वो घुसेंगे और छोड़ देंगे, दरवाजा पीछे वाले के नाक में लगेगा। इसलिए मैंने पेरिस की बात की, ठीक है। नाउ सैमुअल, another study was conducted by Samuel. Samuel found that city life was characterized by withdrawal and detachment and disinterest in social activity. Withdrawal, detachment, and disinterest in social activity. So people who live in city do not frequently socialize with each other because already they are finding lack of space. Okay? They're already finding lack of space. They want private space, personal space for themselves, so they do not interact with each other frequently. Okay? This produces egocentricity, जिसको कि गांव वाले स्वार्थीपन कहते हैं या सेल्फिशनेस कहते हैं. This produces egocentricity. To large extent it is true. To large extent it is true. ठीक है. अच्छा, सिर्फ यही कारण नहीं है, एक और कारण है कि अर्बन लाइफ इज वेरी एक्सपेंसिव. You can't afford the luxury of socialization the way you can do that in the rural areas or small towns. ठीक है. Even if you arrange for a get together, मेरे घर में बैक टू बैक मेरे जन्मदिन के नाम पे मेरे नाम पे कम से कम 5-6 लाख का बिल फाड़ दिया गया. 5-6 पार्टी, हर पार्टी में 1 लाख रुपया खर्चा हो जाता था. ज्यादा नहीं, 17-18 लोग आते थे, 1 लाख रुपया खर्चा हो जाता था. ये तो कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग है. अब कितनी बार आप साल में पार्टी करेंगे बताओ मुझे, एंड एंजॉय नहीं कर पाएंगे उस पार्टी को, बिकॉज इट सीम्स वेस्टेज ऑफ रिसोर्सेज एंड मनी. आर यू गेटिंग इट? तो व्हेन द थिंग्स आर वेरी एक्स्ट्राऑर्बिटेंट यू फील द पिंच. ठीक है. फैमिली के साथ अगर हम लोग किसी दिन खाना खाने बाहर चले गए तो मजा ले, 5,000 के नीचे बिल आएगा, चाहे कितना भी साधारण खाना खा के आए हो, आएगा ही उतना बिल. ठीक है. नाउ 5,000 कैन बी द मंथली इनकम ऑफ अ पर्सन. So it also appears a huge guilt and heavy guilt that why I am wasting money. ठीक है. तो ये भी होता है, तो ज्यादा सोशलाइज इसलिए भी नहीं करता. ठीक. Now crowded situations creates competition for meager resource. Crowded situations create competition for meager resource, and hence people develop tendency of hoarding of resources. People develop tendency of hoarding of resources. That means they start gathering resources in extra amount, जिसको जमाखोरी कहते हैं. And for hoarding of resources, people engage in corrupt behavior and all other kind of behavior. होर्डिंग ऑफ रिसोर्सेज, ज्यादा से ज्यादा अपने लिए बचा के रखना, ठीक है। नाउ दिस इज वेयर इंडिया फाइंड्स लैक ऑफ अर्बन डेवलपमेंट. If you go to Europe, America, and advanced nations of the world, the kind of dwellings people prefer are smaller in size. हमारे इंडिया में क्या है, 5 बेडरूम का फ्लैट चाहिए, 4 बेडरूम चाहिए, 3 BHK चाहिए. 2 BHK वाले को तो लोग ऐसा छोटा समझते हैं. अमेरिका, यूरोप में लोग स्टूडियो अपार्टमेंट्स पसंद करते हैं, 1 BHK पसंद करते हैं, 2 BHK पसंद करते हैं, 3 BHK कोई लेता नहीं. क्यों नहीं लेता? क्योंकि वहां नौकर चाकर नहीं मिलते. पूरा फ्लोर तुमको और तुम्हारी पत्नी को इकट्ठे मॉप करना है, साफ करना है. जवान हो कर लोगे, जिस दिन बूढ़े होगे क्या करोगे? बच्चे तुम्हारे साथ नहीं रहेंगे. बहुत बड़ा स्पेस ले लिया, अब उस स्पेस को मेंटेन कौन करेगा? कैसे करेगा? तो नेचुरली द अर्बन डेवलपमेंट हैज प्रोड्यूस्ड अ क्रेविंग एंड अ साइके दैट वी विल लिव इन स्मॉलेस्ट ऑफ द dwellings, and you will find this in Mumbai. The house that you can buy out of 3 crore rupees in Delhi will be sold at 50 crore rupees in Bandra. Same size. The house in which I am living, the same size house is lived by Deepika Padukone. I saw that. 50 crore. कोई मतलब डिजाइन टू डिजाइन परफेक्ट, एकदम मतलब समझ लो कार्बन कॉपी, लेकिन वहां 50 करोड़ दाम है. तो जितना आप अर्बन डेवलपमेंट देखेंगे, आप देखेंगे स्मॉलर ड्वेलिंग्स के लिए लोगों का प्रेफरेंस बढ़ता जाता है, ठीक है. सनस्टॉर्म found that crowding leads to frustration. Crowding leads to frustration. And beyond a threshold, the frustration could not be tolerated. And beyond the threshold, the frustration cannot be tolerated, which is released in form of aggressive hard work. Which is released in form of aggressive hard work. So thanks to these traffic jams in urban cities, they make a worker workaholic. वो ट्रैफिक का गुस्सा काम पे निकालता है. इतना लड़ झगड़ के ऑफिस आए हैं, इतना नहीं, ये सारा काम कर देंगे, छोड़ेंगे नहीं किसी को. वो गुस्से में काम कर रहा है, ठीक है, तैश में आके कर रहा है, वो मजे लेके काम नहीं कर रहा है. They work aggressively and which often make them workaholic. Sunstorm. अब आप स्टूडेंट लाइफ में सोचो, मान लो सपोज यू वांट टू स्टडी फॉर द होल डे एंड योर फ्रेंड्स हैव कम टू योर रूम एंड यू आर नॉट एबल टू बिगिन द प्रोसेस. They eat away your 1-2 hours. You are frustrated a lot. Once they leave, you get back to study table, you study more aggressively. So Sunstorm is saying that crowding has definitely mental distress, but the effect is that it makes you work aggressively towards the goal. Okay, it makes us work aggressively towards the goal. And now I give you models of crowding. This is something which generally students will not have with them. Other students will not have with them. Okay, models of crowding. What the case studies which I have given you, they are available in prints, in journals, in a book called Environmental, Handbook of Environmental Psychology, written by Raja Manikam. राजा मनिकम की किताब में ये सारे केस स्टडीज जो मैंने आपको अभी दिए वो सारे मिलेंगे आपको, लेकिन ये मॉडल आपको नहीं मिलेगा. ठीक है, ये मॉडल मैंने बहुत कठिन जगह से ऑब्टेन किया है. मॉडल्स ऑफ क्राउडिंग. स्टिमुलस ओवरलोड मॉडल, Dessau et al. Affordance model behavioral constraint model cognitive appraisal or attribution model. This affordance model is given by Prohansky. Behavioral constraint model is given by behaviorist in general. Cognitive appraisal model or attribution model is given by Worcel. Just give me a minute. Dessau et al., who has given stimulus overload model, assumes that crowding produces excessive stimulation of the mind. Crowding produces excessive stimulation of the mind. than what we can handle in the perceptual system. Than what we can handle in the perceptual system. So your perceptual system has a limited ability to process information. When you have too much of information bombarding your perceptual system, it will lead to stimulus overload. Okay. So then what can be handled by the perceptual system, and therefore it causes stimulus overload. It causes stimulus overload. Therefore, people in crowded situation tend to withdraw and show irritation. Tend to withdraw and show irritation. Now, what a remarkable observation. You can also see this. People who live in urban cities which are crowded, urban cities are crowded. Okay? When they walk in the service road or on the footpath, they look down and they look less frequently at each other. Why? Because looking at a stranger means accommodating a new face, reading a new face. अरे ऑलरेडी वो बहुत सारा फेस देख चुका है, वो हैंडल नहीं कर पा रहा है, तो वो देखेगा नहीं किसी की तरफ, वो नीचे देख के चलेगा. और आजकल सबसे अच्छा तरीका है मोबाइल में देखना. लोग मोबाइल देखते हैं, ये भी नहीं देखते कि बगल में कौन बैठा हुआ है, ठीक है, सामने कौन है. लोग फेलो पैसेंजर का शक्ल तक नहीं देखते. क्यों? क्योंकि वो ऑलरेडी स्टिमुलस ओवरलोड है. दे लुक डाउनवर्ड्स व्हाइल टॉकिंग and they look at each other less frequently and they walk fast. They walk faster than average so that they can reach their destination as soon as possible, trying to withdraw. Whereas people who come from rural areas to urban cities, who have not seen crowded places, their perceptual system is relatively vacant. When they will walk in the urban cities, they will look around at every face. ऐसे देखेगा, ऐसे बिल्डिंग देखेगा, ठीक है, उसको बहुत फुर्सत है, धीरे धीरे चलेगा. देखा, ये नोटिस किया कि नहीं? हाँ, स्टार्टिंग में होता है. अच्छा, बहुत खतरनाक होता है. मेरा तो एक्सीडेंट हो गया था, पता है. मैं आईएसबीटी में रोड क्रॉस कर रहा हूं, मैं ऐसे ऐसे देख रहा हूं, ठीक है, उधर से एक टाटा 407 आया, धड़ाम से मुझे मार दिया. वो तो समझ लो खाया पिया शरीर था कि मैं बच गया. नहीं तो टाटा 407 मिनी ट्रक होता है, किसी को ठोक दिया करके क्या नतीजा हो सकता है. एंड इट वाज द फर्स्ट डे ऑफ माय क्लास, ठीक है, और मैं पट्टियां लगा के क्लास में पहुंचा था. तो मेरा आईडी मिल ही नहीं रहा है उनको. बोल रहे कि हटाइए यार, पट्टी हटाइए, समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, सिर्फ एक आंख दिखाई दे रहा है. पट्टी हटाऊंगा तो डर जाओगे. Affordance model given by Prohansky. According to this model, crowding has a negative impact only in those situations in which one cannot afford crowding. Crowding has negative impact only on those situations in which one cannot afford crowding. For example, people afford crowding while traveling in public transport. People afford crowding while traveling in public transport. They may deal with the ill feeling. They may deal with the ill feeling. But they can't afford crowding at their homes. But they can't afford crowding at their homes as it is their private space. as it is their private space, not public space. तो आप अपने घर में कम से कम प्रिवेसी चाहेंगे. घर में भी आके अगर आप देख रहे हैं बहुत सारे लोग हैं, तो आपको अफोर्ड करना मुश्किल हो जाएगा उस फीलिंग को. ठीक है, तो आदमी बाहर कितना भी क्राउडिंग देख ले, उसको पता है एट द एंड ऑफ द डे आई विल रीच माय पर्सनल स्पेस, आई विल हैव द स्पेस रिजर्व्ड फॉर मी. ठीक है, नाउ दिस इज द रीजन दैट इन होम्स वेयर द सोशल डेंसिटी इज वेरी हाई. सोशल डेंसिटी मतलब जहां बहुत सारे मेंबर्स रहते हैं एक ही घर में. इन होम्स वेयर सोशल डेंसिटी इज हाई, the women in the family feel more ill effects of crowding as compared to males. This will be a study that will come. Can you tell me why women feel more crowding as compared to male, given the fact that women require lesser personal space? बताइए. Because the male member has the authority at home, so his personal space is reserved. ये पापा का बेड है, इसमें बच्चे नहीं सोएंगे. तो उसको पता है कि मेरा ये पापा आ गया, बाथरूम पापा जाएंगे. ठीक है, ये अलमारी पापा का है, उसका चीज कोई नहीं छुएगा, उसका एक अलग रुतबा है. लेकिन जो वुमेन इन द होम है वो क्या है, उसके अलमारी में भी बच्चे घुसे हुए हैं, उसके बेड पे भी बच्चे पड़े हुए हैं, मतलब उसका अपना कोई स्पेस ही नहीं है. उस बेचारी को स्ट्रगल करना पड़ता है अपना स्पेस के लिए. दैट इज व्हाई दे शो मोर एग्रेशन. इसलिए बहुत चिल्लम चिल्ली करती है. ठीक है, वो जैसे ही हस्बैंड घर से लौटा, हस्बैंड पे चिल्लाना शुरू करती है, आपका क्या है, आपका तो अपना सब कुछ रिजर्व है. ये फाइटिंग इनमें होता है. नाउ दिस वाज अ स्टडी डन इन इलाहाबाद. हम लोग उस स्टडी में भी आएंगे. ठीक है, बिहेवियरल कंस्ट्रेंट मॉडल. crowding in temples, people deal with it, people can afford it because temple is supposed to be crowded. People can deal with that crowding situation. ठीक है, and you will find crowding in temples. There are some temples which are actually very crowded, like for example Kashi Vishwanath. If you can get to see the shrine, then you are lucky. Generally you will not reach the shrine even after having a ticket. दो तरह के लाइन होते हैं, एक होता है जनरल लाइन, एक होता है टिकट वाला लाइन. टिकट वाला लाइन में भी आपको भगवान के दर्शन होंगे कि नहीं इसका कोई ठीक नहीं है. ठीक है, तो लोग क्या करते हैं, जो जल चढ़ाने जाते हैं गंगा जल, वो गंगा जल वहीं के वो पंडित जी को, पुरोहित को दे देते हैं, वही अंदर जाके चढ़ा के आ जाता है. तो दर्शन हो जाना ही बहुत बड़ी बात है. लाइक कामाख्या मंदिर गुवाहाटी, यू हैव टू वेट इन लॉन्ग क्यूज. कितने लोग गए हैं? यू हैव टू वेट इन लॉन्ग क्यू बिफोर यू कैन मेक एन एंट्री. ठीक है, तिरुपति टेम्पल, देयर आर सम टेम्पल्स व्हिच आर रियली क्राउडेड. Now, behavioral constraint model. According to this model, crowding by itself is not disturbing. Crowding by itself is not disturbing, but it causes frustration only when it constrains our behavior. But it causes frustration only when it constrains our behavior. The traffic commuters do not feel distress when the traffic is heavy but moving. The traffic commuters do not feel distress when the traffic is heavy but moving. But they feel distress when they are held up for long delay in the signals. But they feel distress when they are held up with long delay in the signals. That is why the signals should be machine operated, not manually operated. तो जब सिग्नल खराब हो जाता है, वहां पर एक ट्रैफिक पुलिस वाला खड़ा हो जाता है और उसको समझ में नहीं आता है कि कौन सा लेन में कितना देर से लोग रुके हुए हैं. ठीक है, वो एक लेन को अलाउ करता है, उसको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, उसको जितने गाड़ियां निकल रहे हैं उसको राहत मिल रही है, चलो ये गाड़ी निकाल दिया, अरे उधर वाले को भी देखो कितनी देर से खड़ा है, उसको तो समय का समझ में नहीं आ रहा है ना, लेकिन मशीन क्या करता है, एकदम एग्जैक्ट मोमेंट पे वो चेंज होता है, क्लिक होता है। ठीक है, सो डिले व्हेन यू आर हेल्ड अप, दैट बिहेवियरल कंस्ट्रेंट बिकम्स अ प्रॉब्लम। कॉग्निटिव अप्रेजल मॉडल, cognitive appraisal model, when we attribute the cause of failure when we attribute the cause of failure to crowding, only then it produces ill feeling. When we attribute the cause of failure to crowding, only then it causes ill feeling. So suppose you are an early office goer, okay, and guests have arrived in your home and they have occupied the bathroom and you are not able to go to your office on time. So because you got late in office, you now attribute it to the guest who was occupying the bathroom. Had he not been there, I would have been on time. Now this will create ill feeling. Okay. Now factors affecting crowding. These were the models, and now factors affecting crowding. Personality. People differ in terms of competition tolerance. People differ amongst each other in terms of competition tolerance. Okay. Some people are more tolerant to crowding, some are less. So it's a personality variable. How many of you are tolerant to crowded situation or competition? Okay. Okay, good. Some people lack tolerance, they will feel ill effects of crowding very fast, very soon. Okay. Gender. Females show greater tolerance for crowding as compared to males. In Indian families, mostly the earning male member have their personal space secured at home. Mostly the earning male member have their personal space secured at home. Despite high social density. So here I would like to give you some terms. Social density means number of people living in your home. Spatial density means number of houses present in your locality. Number of houses present in your locality, that is spatial density. So your home may have low social density, but outside the home there may be high spatial density, and vice versa. And so second one is gender, and the third factor that influences crowding is coping asset. Coping asset.
Can you repeat what is the spatial density?
Spatial density is number of houses in the locality. Number of buildings, number of houses in the locality. For example, if you go to Chandni Chowk, you will find there are too many houses within a short space. Okay. Most of the settlements in Delhi, you will find they don't have independent separate walls. The walls of two houses are common. The walls separating the two houses are common. ये आप दिल्ली में देखेंगे, ये छोटे शहरों में नहीं देखेंगे. ठीक है, मतलब सटा हुआ जो डिवाइडिंग है वो सटा हुआ है. अब अंदर पिलर विलर क्या दे रखा है वो मुझे नहीं पता, लेकिन वो एक साथ है. मतलब इधर से अगर वो ठोक रहा है तो उधर वाले को समझ में आ रहा है कि वहां वो एग्जैक्टली फील कर सकता है हाथ रख के. ठीक है. यहां तो एक और चीज है, बिकॉज द एयर इज वेरी डस्टी, यू डोंट हैव वेंटिलेटर्स इन रूम्स. इन दिल्ली यू डोंट हैव वेंटिलेटर्स. चश्मेदानी नहीं होती. You go to any other town or city, you will find ventilation is an important part of construction. यहाँ पर है ही नहीं. और यहाँ क्यों नहीं है? Because the wind is very dusty. वेंटिलेटर रहेगा तो 1 मिनट में आप साधु बाबा बन जाएंगे. ठीक है. Coping asset. When people receive adequate coping resources like social support, when people receive adequate coping resources like social support, crowding actually produces good feelings. Okay. So I will conclude here. In the evening, I am going to deal with the topic of population explosion, causes, consequences, and how to motivate people for small family norms, and technology and environmental degradation. This will be one part of the class. In the other part of the class, military psychology. Okay. So see you in the evening. Bye-bye.